Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Azri Zaddin bin Sarudin, and this is our final year project talking about the factors that influence bullying behavior in the secondary school level among Maktab Rendah Sains Mara Parit students.
So my name is Muhammad Shaidran. So today will be presenting about the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level among Maktab Rendah Sains Mara MRSM Parit students. So I will start with our research background of our research. So basically, bullying is a severe public health issue that requires attention, not just because of the consequences it has on people, but also because of its proclivity to persist even in the presence of witnesses. Bullying also a common occurrence among teenagers that affecting over half of them worldwide. The school bullying is one of the problems that is taken lightly by the government, parent, school, and the majority of the people. So basically, bullying has been increasingly widespread problem in the 21st century, with 5% to 15% of individuals globally reporting being the victim of bullying, with some cases are resulting in death. So there are three factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level in this research, which is the school risk factor, individual risk factor, and family risk factor. So the purpose of our study was to examine the influence of bullying behavior, which include with the school risk factor, individual risk factor, and family risk factor toward bullying behavior in secondary school level among Maktab Rendah Sains Mara MRSM Parit student.
I will continue our research presentation by explaining the problem statement of the research. Bullying in general is a problem that happens around the world. Bullying can happen in many areas such as working places, household, school, and many more. In this research, we are trying to see the problem and trying to explore if bullying problem affects students in the secondary school level. So, in a case in Malaysia on 20 February 2017, a couple years ago, a 14-year-old secondary school male student was hospitalized after being beaten up by four seniors in a school in Sungai Petani, Kedah. This shows that bullies are a problem that leads to violence in secondary school compound. School is supposed to be a safe place where students learn and gather knowledge. So regarding the problems in our problem statement is bully cases are mostly covered by the school management. Secondary schools doesn't want the name of their school being published in the news regarding bullying cases. This is because it will damage the reputation and the image of the school. So problems regarding bullying in school are not being solved. Next is bullied victims experience post-trauma of bullying. The victims experience health-related problem, that is mental well-being and academic performance. Most of these bullying victim will experience trauma that leads to experiencing anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem compared to students that are not being bullied. And the third problem is bullying problems are a difficult problem to solve. It can be seen as a tradition and students are used to it. We need to see what the management of the secondary school have done in eliminating the bullying issues.
So for our research question and objective, the research question and research objective are basically linked together. So I only have to explain one of the objective. So basically, there are four objectives of our research. The first objective is to identify the factors that influence bullies in Maktab Rendah Sains Mara MRSM Parit in conducting bully activities. And the second one is to examine the relationship between the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level with the school risk factor. And the third objective is to examine the relationship between the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level with the individual risk factor. And the last objective of our research is to examine the relationship between the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level with the family risk factor.
Next, I'm going to show you the conceptual framework of our research. So the dependent variable of this research is the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level. And the independent variable is school risk factors, individual risk factors, and family risk factors.
Now I will explain about the hypothesis of our independent variable, which is the school risk factor, individual risk factor, and the family risk factor. So for the hypothesis of our independent variable, the hypothesis is the same for all the three independent variable, which is there is a significant relationship between the school risk factor, individual risk factor, and the family risk factor, and the factors that contribute to bullying behavior among maktab rendah sains mara MRSM Parit student. And for the H null hypothesis, it is also the same for all the independent variable, which is for the school risk factor, individual risk factor, and family risk factor, which is there is no significant relationship between the school risk factor, individual risk factor, and family risk factor, and the factor that contribute to bullying behavior among maktab rendah sains mara MRSM Parit student.
For the research method used in this research is quantitative methods is being used. The cross-sectional design with quantitative approach will be employed in this study to assure that the success of attaining the study's objective. We decided to use a quantitative research method in the study which relies on the surveys as a primary data that involve Maktab Rendah Sains Mara Parit students as a participant of these studies. And next is the unit analysis. The unit analysis was crucial. In general, a unit of analysis may be described as the amount of data aggregation that occurs throughout the data analysis steps. The unit of analysis in the studies was Pearson, which refers to Maktab Rendah Sains Mara students at MRSM Parit. And the sample size of this research is Maktab Rendah Parit have the total population of 1,200 students, but we managed to gather around 105 respondents that were selected as the sample size in performing the studies. The total population doesn't get to reach because we didn't have the time to make sure that all of the students participate in answering our questionnaire. Other than that, sampling technique that were used is a systematic sampling, stratified random sampling, sample random, cluster sampling, area sampling, and double sampling are some of the approach classes in as probability sampling techniques. And the data collection that we uh, provide in the questionnaire is section A, which is respondent information, section B, factors that contributes to bullying, section C, individual risk factors, section D, school risk factors, and the last one is section E, family risk factors. So the data analysis that we use is descriptive statistics that consists of mean, standards, and standard deviation. And the correlation that we calculate and collect the data is used by the Spearman correlation data collection.
So now I will present about the demographic of our research. So there are 105 people of total sample size in our research. So basically we make the demographic into four, which is gender, age, level of form, and area of living. So basically the gender have two types, which is male and female, and the majority of the respondent from the female, which is the frequency is about 53 people, about 50.5%, and the male is about 52 people and 49.5%. And for the age, we take 5 types of ages, which is 13 until 17 years old, and the majority of our respondents were from 17 years old, which is about 52 people, which come in 49.5%. And the lowest people that take our research is the 14 years old people, which the frequency is about 6 people and the percentage is about 5.7%. So the level of form, we classes it into two, which is lower secondary form and upper secondary form. And as we know, the age 17 years old people are the majority. So the upper secondary form also the majority for the level of form. So the frequency for the upper secondary form is 72 people, and the percentage is about 68.6%, which the lower secondary form is about 33 people, and the percentage is about 31.4%. And the last demographic of our research is about the area of living. So there are four types of area of living, which is the rural, sub-rural, urban, and suburban. The majority of our respondent come from the urban, which conclude with the people of 54%, 54 people, and have 51.4%. And the last people that come from area of living sub-rural, which the respondent are 4, and the percentage is about 3.8%. So now I will present about the result of our research. So basically we have three objectives. So the first objective is to examine the relationship between the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level with the school risk factor of Maktab Rendah Sains Mara MRSM Parit student. For the hypothesis, we use the Spearman because the inner normality test for this, we get a negative number. So we use the Spearman number. So the result for the first objective is R square is 0.510, and the hypothesis is hypothesis 1 accepted and rejected H null. And the second objective is to examine the relationship between the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level with the individual risk factor of Maktab Rendah Sains Mara MRSM Parit student. We also use Spearman skill, and the result is R square 0.610, and it's also hypothesis 2 are accepted and rejected H null. And the last objective, to examine the relationship between the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level with the family risk factor of Maktab Rendah Sains Mara MRSM Parit student. We also use Spearman, and the R square result is 0.592, and the hypothesis 3 also accepted and rejected H null.
Moving to our research recommendation of this research is the first recommendation that we provide is the school environment should have a more positive environment. Building a positive school climate can be done in many ways. The positive element may varies, but it can start it in excluding the normality of bullying customs that have been done by past seniors in the schools. Like I have said that it is a normality in schools that the seniors need to bully their juniors. Bullying always started and conducted by senior students as they feel that they can control and bully their juniors. By stopping this so-called custom will help in creating a more positive school environment. This also can be done when they have a strong leadership image among them, where the leaders can be the one who see any harmful peers abuse towards other students in their schools. Teachers are most important individual who can change the school environment into a more harmony and positive school environment. They need to be the one who told their students to conduct any bullying activities, and also having to be the oldest individual in the school compound that need to take action and act as their brothers and sisters or even their parents. They also need to implement a strict policy punishment towards students who involve in any bullying activities. And the last recommendation is quite hard to achieve because students need to be the one who speak up about the problems of bullying. Bullying will continue when the person who is being bullied or stay being bullied to stay silent and hold it by themselves. We all know that it is hard for someone to open up if they are being bullied because they are afraid of telling someone about what happened to them. This is because the post-trauma effect of bullying. This the ideology of afraid of bullies need to be erased inside of someone who goes to secondary school. This is because they need to learn on how to be independent and help themselves starting from their secondary school experience. Telling school organization will also help them in catching and punishing the bullies so that they can expel from the school for their behavior. Finding teachers, parents, and someone who can help in avoiding bullying behavior will help in eliminating bullies activities in secondary schools. So the next point in this presentation is the limitation of studies and future research suggestion. The first limitation of our studies is the limited survey method. In the studies, a Google form created our questionnaire were used as the primary tools in collecting data. We provided 5 sections inside the questionnaire, which consists section A, B, C, D, and E. Our questionnaire used two languages, that is English and Malay survey, where we share through WhatsApp because it is more easier to be accessed by our respondents. The problem with our survey method is that some of the student does not have access to answer our questionnaire because they does not have their smartphone during their time inside the school compound. Survey can be done more accurate if we have the chance to distribute our questionnaire by hard copy. This cannot be managed due to COVID-19 pandemic. Next is the unreachable sample size. Studies conduct does not get full involvement of student in MRSM Parit because we managed to collect around 105 respondents that consist 52 males and 53 female students. MRSM Parit have approximately 1,200 students. This can be related with the availability of students in answering the questionnaire. Most of the respondents are senior students of MRSM Parit, uh, and it is hard for the junior students reaching our questionnaire because most of our senior students are acquaintance to us. And as I say that during this COVID-19 pandemic, distribution of questionnaire by hard copies is not manageable. And the last limitation of our research is questions in the questionnaire survey is too long. The question asked in our survey can be considered as a long questionnaire. 5 section includes the questionnaire is too long to read. This will cause respondent to lose interest in answering the questionnaire. So in the future, maybe we need to ask more direct and simple question in order to attract respondent interest in answering our questionnaire. So in conclusion, the purpose of this research is to examine the factors that influence bullying behavior in secondary school level among MRS and Parit students. This study is also conducted in examining more deeply about the bullying cases in secondary school in Malaysia. So we can see how bullying affect someone and finding the initiative in reducing or even stop bullying for good. This is because bullying has given bad image towards the people. For an instant, children will become more afraid if they know that they are going to get bullied in school. Other than that, we can see that the relationship of our dependent and independent variable can be related with the data collected during our research. The research also given us the evidence that every action are the cause of one of the factors that we include in the research. However, in our studies, we can say that the studies need to be continued as it only involved 11% of MRSM Parit students. This is still not strong enough because the population of the secondary school is around 1,200 students. So further studies would help in having a more accurate and satisfying output for our studies. This happened because most of our respondents were students and ex-students of MRSM Parit. Most of them does not have the access in answering our questionnaire, and they are more likely busy with their studies and other stuff. That is all from us. Thank you.